I was asleep with Newport tucked away in my cabin. After a good old session in the crew bar, the ship was quiet and it was stupid o'clock in the morning. I had a rude awakening. I'd fallen out of bed. The Newport fell out of bed and landed on top of me. What the fuck? I said, all confused. I struggled to get to my feet. Then I found it a massive effort to walk over to the light switch. I remember thinking to myself, I wasn't that fucked from earlier on that evening, so why would I be struggling the 6 foot to the light switch in the pitch black? I made it to the light switch and flicked it on. To my surprise, the ship was noticeably leaning to one side. There was a half-filled glass on my desk with some fermented stale booze, and the gammy liquid was spilling over the side. Newport grabbed me by the arm. She looked petrified. Then the ship started to level out. Thank fuck, I said to Newport. Let's get back to bed. I looked at my clock. It was 5 a.m. All of a sudden the ship jolted back to the same direction and bounced upright back to the dodgy angle of this list. I don't know how many times this happened, as I lost count. Paul, what are you going to do? Said Newport. Nothing, I said. Do you hear the crew alert? Because I don't. But I'm scared, said Newport. I have to admit, I started to feel slightly nervous as this ship was still at a massive tilt towards the starboard side. The list was now that bad. Bottles and other random shit started to fall off my shelving. Even my laptop started to slide across the desk. Right, that's it, I said. I battled my way to the door, walking down the steep hill this list has created, and opened my door. I could see crew in the corridor with their life jackets on, just waiting for crew alert to sound. I closed my door and grabbed my rucksack from the peg behind my door and back towards the listing hill towards my bed. At this point, Newport was nearly crying and was clearly frightened. Don't worry, babes. We still haven't gone to crew alert, so it's all fine, I said. I passed Newport a life jacket and grabbed my own, saying, don't put it on yet. I just passed it down as a precaution. I opened up the cupboard that was also my headboard to the bed and pulled out an unopened sleeve of cigarettes, opened up my rucksack and pulled out my green watertight bags. I placed the cigarettes into a watertight bag, then placed them in the rucksack. Newport cut me a worried look. Don't worry, it's just a precaution, I repeated. I grabbed my laptop and portable hard drive, placed them into the waterproof bag, then slid them into my rucksack. Newport still looked nervous. I took her by the hand. Baby, I'm just packing this stuff as a precaution. There's nothing to worry about. I went back to the headboard cupboard and pulled out a couple of bottles of rum, some plastic glasses and a selection of mixers and slid them into my rucksack. Newport just looked at me in despair. Babes, I'm only packing this stuff as a precaution. The ship isn't going down because if it was, we would be at crew alert by now. The ship bounced straight, then returned to the list. This has now been going on for nearly half an hour. I've seen some lists in my time, and some have lasted for quite a few hours, but I haven't seen a list that was at this angle before, nor had I seen it bounce like this before. I looked for both Newport's and my muster personnel hats. They are bright yellow baseball caps designed to make the crew stand out when everyone has their life jackets on. I threw Newport her hat and then put my hat onto the rucksack. I looked around and then saw it. I grabbed my red cowboy hat. This hat became my trademark in the crew bar. I even wore it once to a surprise crew drill, which the Spanish port authorities once sprang on us on April Fool's Day. This drill turned out to be legit, but as I was hungover as usual when the drill was called, I just assumed it was a wind-up. Anyways, I digress. I put my red cowboy hat on, because if this shit was going down, I couldn't live with myself if I left this hat behind. This hat saw me through many parties. This hat saw me through pulling many girls in the crew bar. I was even wearing the hat for the first time I met Newport. The ship began to level out once more. It slowly returned to what you would consider a normal degree of levelness. I looked at my watch. This whole fiasco had lasted about 40 minutes. For peace of mind for Newport, I kept the life jackets on the floor, along with my supply bag, and we slept with the lights on. The next morning, I had an ask around with a cadet I know from the deck team to find out what happened. The cadet told me the newly promoted third officer, who was fresh out of college after sitting his third officer exam, was on watch. When the wind changed direction, he made the course correction but failed to turn off the ship's autopilot. So as he was changing the direction away from this random barrage of wind, the autopilot pulled the ship back to the plotted course. This is what created the list and the subsequent bouncing as the poor bastard was battling both the wind and the navigational computer. Eventually the captain got dressed and made his way to the bridge, where he noticed the third officer battling away with the ship's controls and the wind. Then the captain noticed the autopilot was still engaged. The captain went over to the pilot station, flicked the autopilot off and had the third officer make the course correction. Wow. I bet that cunt isn't going to live this one down for a while, I said. The cadet replied, he's already been given a nickname from the captain. Yeah, what's that, I said. The captain replied, due to the amount of passengers and crew that went to the master stations without being told so, he's been christened Panic Stations. I laughed my head off and went back to breakfast.